Greetings. Shabbat Shalom. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, depending on where you are on the planet. Shabbat Shalom to you. Greetings to the 12 tribes of the children of Jacob, whose name was changed to Israel or Yashar-al, who are scattered into the four corners of the earth through captivity and persecution and slavery, and awaiting deliverance of the man whose name was Jacob, but his name was changed to Yashar-al or Israel, but want to serve his God, Yahweh, and his son, whose Hebrew name is Yahweh Shai. Greetings. Greetings to those who are seeking truth and righteousness and want to see an end of corruption and death on the planet. Greetings. Greetings to all that are in the chat. Shabbat Shalom to you all. Greetings to you. We have been studying the book of Revelation, and we are in the process of studying the seven trumpets. We have looked at four trumpets. I'm going to review the fourth trumpet again today before we continue, because it's very important in terms of going forward from into the fifth trumpet, which we're really going to study today, the fifth trumpet. And we have already studied the seven churches and the seven seals. And of course, now we're in the trumpets. And we also alluded to the fact that the whole book of Revelation is taking place as Messiah is doing his work as an intercessor on behalf of his people in the sanctuary of the third heaven, the heavenly sanctuary. We alluded to the fact that from that sanctuary, Messiah takes sin off his people and replaces sin with the perfect righteousness of the Father. We alluded to the fact that that righteousness comes to his people as a result of his blood being shed for them, as a result of their repentance for breaking the covenant with the Most High, and as a result of him being appointed to disseminate Father's Spirit to whoever he will. And so through that process, perfect righteousness is placed on us. I say perfect righteousness is placed on us. In this day and age of quick clicks and short videos, I want to make sure we catch that part, because people will misconstrue my word. I'm not saying we are perfect righteousness. I said perfect righteousness is placed on us. What does that mean? How does that work? Let's look at one of my favorite places to look at this, and that's the prophet Zechariah. Zechariah chapter 3. Zechariah chapter 3. This is an illustration of how righteousness is placed on us and what it means. Okay? Zechariah chapter 3 is a vision that was shown to the prophet Zechariah during a time when the temple, the second temple of the nation of Israel, was going to be constructed. And there was, of course, opposition to the building of that temple. There was a battle in the building of that temple. And so this was a vision given to him during that time. At that time, the high priest that was representing Levi, that was representing Aaron's descendants, was a man named Joshua, or Yahushua. That was his name. And Yahushua was the high priest, and he was to lead the people and one of the spiritual leaders in this effort of rebuilding the second temple. And they were having opposition. So here is a vision. And he showed me Joshua, the high priest, standing before the angel of Yahweh, and Asatan standing at his right hand to resist him. So here's the scene. Joshua is standing before Yahushua. The angel of Yahweh here is Messiah. He's the angel of the covenant. He's called the messenger of the covenant. Okay, in the book of Malachi, Messiah is called the messenger of the covenant. And again, the Bible says, no man has seen the Father at any time. The only begotten Son that is in the bosom of the Father, he has declared him. So Messiah comes on behalf of his Father, and he comes with an angel usually also, multiple times. The Bible shows us that. So here he is in this vision. He's standing before the Messiah, and Satan is on the other side. So Joshua is going to ask requests or come to Messiah with request to the Father, and Satan is there to stop it. Always he's there to stop it. That's why I say to y'all, when you come to this truth, you're going to be tested. Tested to see if you're real. To see if you're the seed that come on good ground or you're the seed that come on shallow ground. You're going to be tested. All of us are. It's not no easy walk. But you're given strength. Watch. And Yahweh said unto Satan, Yahweh rebuked thee, O Satan. Even Yahweh that has chosen Jerusalem rebuked thee. Is not this a brand plucked out of the fire? Now, watch verse 3. Now Joshua was clothed with filthy garments and stood before the angel. Joshua was clothed with filthy garments. Isaiah 64 says, all our righteousnesses are as filthy rags. Without the Most High's righteousness, we're looked upon as either naked or dressed in filthy rags. Now, when they say filthy rags, you know what that really is? Filthy rags, when you look it up, it's the menstrual cloth that had been used by a woman on her period. That's the filthy rags that it's talking about. All our righteousnesses are as filthy rags. And they say here, Joshua was dressed in filthy garments. That's without Father's righteousness, what we look like. All of us. All have sinned and come short of the glory of Yah. And this is what we look like to him. Let's keep reading. And he answered and spake unto those that stood by before him, saying, take away the filthy garments from him. And unto him he said, behold, I have caused thine iniquity to pass from thee, and I will clothe thee with a change of raiment. So he took the iniquity that was part of Joshua, and he took it from him. And he said, I'm going to put new clothes on you. New clothes on you. Okay? Watch. Verse 5. And I said, let them set a fair mitre upon his head. So they set a fair mitre upon his head and clothed him with garments, and the angel of Yahweh stood by. So he put his own robe on him. The mitre is given to the priest. In the book of Exodus, the mitre was made out of pure gold, and it had on the writing, a writing in Hebrew on it, and it said, holiness to Yahweh. So now, here's Zechariah is watching. He sees the filthy garments. He sees the garments pasted. He said, I'm going to cause your iniquity to pass from you. And he put him on his own clothes. That's righteousness. The Bible says the robe is called the robe of righteousness. His Father's righteousness. Then he placed a mitre on and said, you're no longer with filthy rags, Joshua. You are holiness unto me. I have put my righteousness on. See, that's what it is. That's salvation. That is power. So he takes his own righteousness and covers his people with it. And that's what causes us to be able to go in the kingdom. That's what does it. We did not earn. You never seen in here with Joshua did anything good to earn the robe. He did nothing good to earn the robe. Did he? It never said he did these good works. Satan was there because he knew what Joshua was. Satan personally knows all of us. He knows all of us personally. Not only that, he knows all of our histories from Adam. He knows every sin that we have committed because he was part of it. He knows every weakness we have. And so he's standing beside because he knows everything about Joshua. And what happened? The Most High said, I'm rebuking you. Get out of my face. Take that filthy garment off him and give him a new coat and put holiness on top of his head. Why did he do that? Because Joshua was there coming to him. Joshua was coming to him. He was standing before him. That's what happens with us. That's what grace really is. Really what it is. He puts perfect righteousness on us, covers us, takes away our sin. See, if you go to the Father in the name of the Messiah, right, and you're seeking his righteousness, right, you must be doing that for his glory, not for your glory. It's for his glory, because he's glorified in seeing himself in you. And in seeing himself in you, what it means is you become one with his covenant. You're obedient. That's why Messiah said, I hate, and he used those words, I hate the doctrine of Nicolaitans, which turns my grace into lasciviousness and says there's no law. That's demonic. That's demonic. And once saved, always saved. Demonic. The people that believe in these things don't have any peace, because the true spirit of the Father is not inhabited in their soul temple. He cannot. You're disrespecting him. You're telling him his law is nothing. It's done away with. It's your enemy. Well, then you're now an enemy of Yahweh, because his law is part of his soul. His law is his character. You cannot obey his character without obedience to his law. So Joshua stood by, and knows what happened. They put the fair mitre on his head, holiness to Yahweh. And in verse 6, and the angel of Yahweh protested unto Joshua, it means he commanded, saying, thus saith Yahweh of hosts, if thou wilt walk in my ways and keep my charge, then thou shalt also judge my house, and shalt also keep my courts. And I will give thee places to walk among these that stand by. Talking about the angels. There was angels there, angels that stood by. I'm going to give you a place to walk among them. Because Joshua was the high priest. He said, if you are faithful and keep my law and keep my courts, I'm going to give you a place among these. And I've given you my righteousness in order for you to be able to accomplish that. I've given you my holiness. That's grace. Our response is faithfulness to the Father. Faithfulness to the Father is the only response. That's the only one. Okay, so he puts perfect righteousness on his people. That's what he does. Okay, that's what he does. And that's what Messiah is doing as our high priest right now. He's the high priest, and he's putting perfect righteousness on all that come to his Father in his name. First to the Israelites. First to the Israelites. There's nothing going to happen in this planet. There's no kingdom going to be established until the Israelite people, the Ados, the former slaves, receive this righteousness first. Nobody else going to get it before them. And there ain't no other prophet going to be raised up from no Arab, no European, no Caucasian going to get this before us. It's just not going to happen. It's not the order. It's not the order established by the Father, the Jew first, because they're his chosen people. Okay, once our people receive this truth and start to teach and to preach it, it's on. It's on. It's on. And I'm telling you, I'm bearing witness, and you bear witness. I'm an Israelite by blood, and I'm giving this word not by me, but by the Father's Spirit. It's on. I'm not the only one. I'm not the only one. Y'all know I'm not the only one. It's on. It's on. And it's going to continue. The kingdom of Yah is going to come. There's no question it's coming. The only question is who's going to be in it. It's all. It's not a question of whether it's coming or not. Messiah is going to return. Yes, he's coming out the sky. And yes, he's going to destroy this whole system. Yes, he will. Only question is who's with him. That's the only one. So, we're looking at the 7 trumpets. And last night we looked at trumpet number 3 and 1, 2, 3, and 4. But I want to go over the 4th one again. We talked a lot in the 3rd one because of the wormwood situation. Okay. In fact, let's take a look at that real quick. We talked about wormwood last night, and we were in Deuteronomy chapter 29. And I want to just touch base on something that we read there to start today's lesson, which we're talking about. Really, we're going to go into the 5th trumpet of the 7 trumpets of Revelation. And so, again, as we're looking there, I want to just remind you that the trumpets in the Bible are given as warning signals to the Israelite people. Warning signals to the Israelite people. That's the reason for trumpets. I want to also reiterate what we've said repeatedly. Trumpets are not a feast. There is no such thing in the King James Bible as a feast of trumpets. Trumpets are a warning, a holy convocation, a warning, because in the 10th day of the 7th month is the most important day of the Hebrew year. That is the Day of Atonement, the cleansing of the sanctuary. And the trumpets are a prelude to that. On the first day of the 7th month, the blowing of trumpets is a warning that the 10th day is coming. Get ready. And the 7 trumpets are representing warnings. Okay? Deuteronomy chapter 29, we studied last night because the 3rd trumpet said a star fell from heaven and brought wormwood. Remember that? A 1/3 of the waters are burned up. Bitter, and a 1/3 of the trees are burned up. We're going to talk about that 3rd in a second too. But it's a warning. And notice again, Deuteronomy chapter 29. We're just going to read from verse 18 and 19. Verse 18 and 19. Actually, 18, 19, and 20. Yeah. Watch. Lest there be among you. Now, this is Moses talking to Israel. The conversation between Moses and Israel, and the message Moses got is from Yahweh. Okay. Lest there should be among you man or woman or family or tribe whose heart turneth away this day from Yahweh our Most High to go and serve the gods of these nations, the gods of the nations of the countries they were taken over, the countries around them. Lest there should be among you a root that beareth gall and wormwood. And it come to pass when he heareth the words of this curse that he bless himself in his heart. Watch this. It come to pass when he heareth the words of this curse that he bless himself in his heart, saying, I have peace, though I walk in the imagination of my heart, to add drunkenness to thirst. Now, wait, there's a lot here, brother. He hears the word of what curse? What curse is he talking about? It's the curse of Deuteronomy 28. And we don't have to read all the curses because we know it's an exhaustive list, and we know it we know it not only by reading about it, we live it. But let's take a look at what the curse, how it starts off. Deuteronomy chapter 28. I'm going to start at verse 14 and read verse 15 because that gives us the gist of what it's talking about in chapter 29 and also the 3rd trumpet. Watch. And thou shalt not go aside from any of the words which I command thee this day, to the right hand or to the left, to go after other gods, to serve them. But it shall come to pass, if thou wilt not hearken unto the voice of Yahweh thy Most High, to observe to do his commandments and his statutes, which I command thee this day, that all these curses shall come upon thee and overtake thee. So the curses come from what? It said, if we don't hearken to the voice of our God, not the gods of the nations, our God. We don't all serve the same God. But the Israelite God is different from everybody else. He's only showing himself to them. And he said, don't serve any other one. He said, don't hearken to the voice. hearken to my voice and don't and observe my commandments, don't go after these other gods. That's the curse. So the curse is if you leave his commandment, you're not listening to him anymore. If you leave his commandments, you're not listening to him anymore. Let me say that one more time. If you leave his commandments, you're not listening to him anymore. And yet it says in Deuteronomy 29 that when the person that brings the wormwood, that receives the wormwood, when he hears the curse, this warning, he blesses himself in his heart. He said, no, I'm good. Even though I hear the curse, no problem. I'm going to be good. Though he walk in the imagination of his own heart and add drunkenness to thirst. In other words, the man is thirsty. We're all thirsty. But he's getting drunk on the wine of Babylon and saying, I'm going to be blessed. He's getting drunk on the wine of Babylon and saying, I'm going to be blessed. I hear the words of the curse of my God. But no, I'm serving this other God now, and I'm going to be blessed. I'm under grace. That's gall and wormwood. Obviously, the star that fell from heaven is Asatan. Obviously, anytime you hear a star falling from heaven, it's Asatan. And this time he brought wormwood with him. What was the wormwood? Constantine and Christianity. That was the wormwood. Because what did Christianity do? It caused you to do what? Ignore the commandments. Did it not? Am I telling a lie? Does not a large part of Christianism teach ignore the commandments? Does it not? I'm under grace now. Isn't that the talk? Isn't that the doctrine? For the Israelite, that's wormwood. That's the warning. It's wormwood. And if you receive that, knowing the commandments of the Most High, guess what? Your prayers are cast back to the earth. He's not hearing you. He that turneth away his ear from hearing the law, even his prayer shall be abomination. That's the word. That's the word of the Most High. He that turneth away his ear from hearing the law, even his prayer shall be abomination. And I know we started the whole program up by telling you how you obey the commandments of Yah. I hear some of these knuckleheads talking about how you gonna obey all 619 laws? How you gonna obey all 619 laws? First of all, to say such foolishness is to discredit the Father. So you're trying to tell me my God gave us 619 laws that we can't keep? Huh? That would be an evil God, would it not? And they replaced him with white. First, they discredit him. Then they replace him with white Jesus. Oh, white Jesus just loves everybody. And all you got to do is raise your hand and join the church. And you're going to be saved with white Jesus. It's wormwood. It's wormwood. The covenant of Yah can be kept by the power of his spirit of perfect righteousness, which he gives us as a gift. It's not because we just can keep it. See, the Christians think like that because their whole religion is carnal. It's man-made. It's man-made. We don't deal with man-made. We deal with eternal. The Father's eternal. He is not man-made. He made man. And he gives us of his spirit of perfect righteousness and covers us with his robe and declares us righteous, not because we are, because he is. The 619 laws, I don't even know how they come up with that. I don't even know where they got that number from. It don't even matter though. It's stupid. It's just plain stupid. You got to be dumb to believe that stuff. You got to really be willfully ignorant to think that a creator is going to say, I'm going to give you 619 laws for 4,000 years that you can't keep. You really got you seriously, if you think about it for a second, what kind of sense does that make? And then I'm going to send you a European white Jesus for you to bow down to. And all you got to do is raise your hand and receive him in your heart. Come on, yo. That's for the heathen, not for us. It's not for us. That's not us, man. It's not us. Now, That was the third, right? I want to show you something regarding the third. Now, let's go back now. Revelation chapter 8. Revelation chapter 8, we're dealing with these trumpets, right? I want you to notice something that we've seen in the first four trumpets. I want you to notice something that we've seen in the first four trumpets. Okay, watch. Revelation chapter. And listen now when I read them, because you listen to the theme of what we're reading. Aside from there's a trumpet blowing in each one. I'm going to give you that. There's a trumpet blowing in each of the first four trumpets, right? But there's something else in there that's a thread that you see, right? Watch. Okay. Let's start with the first. Chapter 8 of Revelation, beginning at verse 7. The first angel sounded, and there followed hail and fire mingled with blood, and they were cast upon the earth. And the third part of the trees was burned up, and all the green grass was burned up. And the second angel sounded, and as it were, a great mountain burning with fire was cast into the sea. And the third part of the sea became blood. And the third part of the creatures that were in the sea and had life died. And the third part of the ships were destroyed. And the third angel sounded, and there fell a great star from heaven, burning as it were a lamp. And it fell upon the third part of the rivers and upon the fountains of waters. And the name of the star is called wormwood. And the third part of the waters became wormwood. And many men died because of the waters, because they were made bitter. And the fourth angel sounded, and the third part of the sun was smitten, and the third part of the moon, and the third part of the stars, so that the third part of them was darkened, and the day shone not for the third part of it, and the sunlight and the night likewise. What did you notice in all four trumpets? What did you notice? Aside from a trumpet blowing, there was a commonality among the four trumpets. Did you catch that? There was a commonality among the four trumpets. Did you hear the common thing that came through the four trumpets? Did you hear it? The common thing, did you hear it? Did you notice that the dominant number was a third? Did you notice that? The dominant number for all four trumpets was a third. Did you notice that? A third, a third, a third, and a third, four times. So it's not like it was divided between those, because it would have been a fourth, right? It could have been divided evenly between the four trumpets, there would have been a fourth, right? But it didn't. It said a third each time. A third. That is important to the Israelite. That is very important to you and me because of the word of the Most High. See, the word of the Most High is everything to us. Our object is to glorify the Father. And in glorification of the Father, receiving his spirit, being obedient to the covenant, we want his word. Not everybody feels that way, but not everybody's chosen. Jacob's children are chosen, whether they realize it or not. So with that in mind, let's go back to our brother, Zechariah. Let's go back to him. Let's go back to what was shown to him from the Father through Messiah. In Zechariah now, chapter 13. Zechariah chapter 13. I'm going to begin at verse 7. Even though I really want to read the whole thing, for the point that we're making here, I would admonish you to read the whole thing of 13 and 14. In fact, I love Zechariah, so I'm kind of biased and say read the whole book, but at least chapter 13 and 14. And if you follow the suggestion we gave you and read your Bible through in the year, you will end up reading Zechariah anyway. So, okay. Zechariah chapter 13 from verse 7, 8, and 9. Awake, O sword, against my shepherd, and against the man that is my fellow, and saith Yahweh of hosts. Smite the shepherd, and the sheep shall be scattered, and I will turn mine hands upon the little ones. We'll go over that in a second. And it shall come to pass in all the land, saith Yahweh. 2 parts therein shall be cut off and die, but the third shall be left therein. The third. And I will bring the third part through the fire, and will refine them as silver is refined, and will try them as gold is tried. They shall call on my name, and I will hear them. I will say, it is my people, and they shall say, Yahweh is my most high. A third. Whenever you hear a third mentioned in prophecy, it's talking about the effects on the chosen. The third. Not all Israelites are of Israel. That's what Paul said. Not all Israel is of Israel. Only a third. All Israel are descendants, bloodline of Jacob, but not all of them are going to be in the kingdom. Only a third. And as we have read in Ezekiel, of the heathen, a sixth. The Bible tells us that. He said, I'm going to leave a sixth part. Of the Israelites, a third. Of the heathen, a sixth. 2/3 cut off and die. 5/6 be destroyed. Okay, a third and a sixth. What? Awake again, it says verse 7, awake, O sword, against my shepherd, and against the man that is my fellow, saith Yahweh of hosts, smite the shepherd, and the sheep shall be scattered. Let's talk about that. That's deep. It's deeper than we know. It was quoted in the Gospels when Messiah came and was arrested by Judas. Judas led a band of soldiers to come arrest Messiah. The traitor came with a band of soldiers to arrest Messiah, right? And so they took the shepherd, and the sheep were scattered, and all the rest of the disciples, the other 11, scattered, right? That was a little minor micro example. Okay, smite the shepherd, and the sheep shall be scattered. Also, we know as a result of rejecting Messiah, our city, Jerusalem, of our people, the Israelites, was destroyed, and we were scattered, as Messiah said. Messiah said in Luke, brought into captivity to all nations by the Gentiles until the times of the Gentiles be fulfilled. That's why we were scattered into slavery. We went in all directions. We went north, south, east, and west. Israelites went in all directions. We went in the north into Europe, and then later, as we're going to read about, they kicked us out. They kicked us out and captured us in Europe and put us in slavery, as well as from West Africa. And then the Muslims came also and converted us or killed us. We got two punched. Okay? From the Europeans and from the Arabs. Okay? So we were scattered. And then with the third trumpet, smite the shepherd, replace Messiah with Christianity. Replace him, Hebrew Messiah, with Caucasian Eurocentric Christianity. Eventually, even make a picture of this Messiah to be a Caucasian man. Change the meaning of the Bible so that all of the people that were being witnessed to were Christians, though the Bible never says that. Cause the true Hebrew to be replaced by Christianity. And make Christianity one of the three main religions of the world: Christianity, Islam, and Judaism. All man-made. And get rid of the original Israelites. Enslave them, destroy them, but don't let them wake up. Smite the shepherd, and the sheep shall be scattered. And now, as we are awakening, at first, the awakening that was taking place more than 100 years ago, even in the 1800s, the awakening that was taking place had phases. And that's why there was a delay. The phases went like this. As people that were Hebrew, really, even going back as far as Nat Turner, but after Nat Turner in Virginia and in other places in New York with Marcus Garvey, there was awakening of who we really are. But the problem is, this was it. White Jesus had been beat over our heads so bad that we were just running from him. And so a lot of the early awakening didn't receive Messiah at all because they were running from white Jesus. See? Even like Malcolm X, he was part of that generation later that came. They didn't want anything to do with white Jesus and Christianity. And so by doing that, they rejected Messiah altogether. You still got Israelites to this day that don't receive this man they call Jesus Christ in the Bible as Messiah, because they're running from Christianity. And then there's a tremendous hatred of the Apostle Paul and his writings. Why? Because Christianity uses his writings to justify their existence, even though they are really misusing it. They're really misusing it. Apostle Paul was a Hebrew. And the reason he was teaching Gentiles, because he was sent to them, and he was trying to get them to join the nation. As he said in his own writings, you are grafted into the olive tree. The Bible tells us the olive tree is the nation of Israel. You are part of the commonwealth of Israel. That's what he was trying to tell them. He told them about keeping the Passover. Why would he do that? Because they were getting grafted into the nation. But Christianity taught us he's doing away with the law, and he's a Christian. They've done movies, they've written books, they do all the propaganda they can do to discredit Paul's writings and make it a Christian thing. Therefore, Israelites that were first awakening rejected his writings, because they were trying to reject Christianity and reject white Jesus, because it's destroyed us. That stuff has destroyed us. I used to wonder, when I first became a Christian, right? I was at the age of 21 when I consciously gave my life to Jesus and became a Christian. Now, the Most High, he looked over my ignorance and brought me and saved me in his spirit in terms of delivering me from things I was headed to. Definitely. But then after a while, I became disillusioned, didn't understand. Because the longer I was in it, I would start to see the young people that were born into family members who were church members, well, couldn't wait to just leave, couldn't wait to go. And I thought they would say, they're gone into the world. And I would see grandparents go, like my grandmother did, go pick us up after having raised their children in the church, the Christian church, and their children gone, go pick up the grandchildren, bring them to church and hope that they stay. I said, why? What is that? What's going? And they said, well, it's just the draw of the world. And that would never sit right with me. It would never sit right, because I always, in my mind, said, well, if this thing is that powerful, why would the world draw us? If this thing we're in is that strong, that powerful, why couldn't it keep us? And why is it just young people always leaving? Because it's man-made. Because it's not real. Because the power, the eternal power, is with the Father and with the Israelites. And that power of righteousness will keep you. I'm witness. Because when I received it, when that came to me and I received that righteousness, it has kept me. Oh, yes, I have stumbled many times, no question, but I always come back. I always come back. I never stray too far. Father doesn't let me. So that's the truth, though. And so now, as we're awakening, the true awakening, the final awakening, people are receiving the Hebrew Messiah. That's the final. The sheep are coming back to the shepherd. The sheep are coming back to the shepherd. And the Messiah introducing us to our Father. Introducing us to our Father. Yeah. So in Revelation chapter 8, we see a third, because it's the effect on us. It's the effect on us. The effect of Constantine's conversion to Christianity. The effect of the rise of the Catholic Church. Now, in the Bible, in the book of Revelation, there are two women. Two main women. Let's look at the fourth trumpet again. Revelation chapter 8 and verse 12. And the fourth angel sounded, and the third part of the sun was smitten, and the third part of the moon, and the third part of the stars, so that the third part of them was darkened, and the day shone not for a third part of it, and the night likewise. And I beheld and heard an angel flying through the midst of heaven, saying with a loud voice, woe, woe, woe to the inhabitants of the earth, by reason of the other voices of the trumpet of the three angels which are yet to sound. In other words, bad things have already happened, and worse things are coming. Now, this fourth angel, it goes along with the fourth seal. And let's take a look at the fourth seal. Revelation chapter 6. Revelation chapter 6 and verse 7. Revelation chapter 6 and verse 7. Exactly. Revelation 6. Not only that, how you going to get a Caucasian woman from Maine and say that's your prophet? I mean, really? Really? Okay. Revelation chapter 6. That's why I'm glad we got the word. When we read the word and stick with the word by itself, your eyes get open, man. Your eyes get open. Believe that. Your eyes get open when you stick with the word. Just the Bible. Revelation chapter 6 and verse 7. And when he had opened the fourth seal, I heard the voice of the fourth beast say, "Come and see." And I looked, and behold, a pale horse, and his name that sat on him was Death, and hell followed with him. And power was given him over the fourth part of the earth to kill with sword, and with hunger, and with death, and with the beasts of the earth. Death. Fourth horse. Pale. Fourth trumpet. Darkness. Fourth church. Thyatira. Revelation chapter 2, verse 20. Notwithstanding, I have a few things against thee, because thou sufferest that woman, Jezebel, which calleth herself a prophetess, to teach and to seduce my servants, to commit fornication, and to eat things sacrificed unto idols. And I gave her space to repent of her fornication, and she repented not. Behold, I will cast her into a bed, and them that commit adultery with her into great tribulation, except they repent of their deeds. And I will kill her children with death. And all churches shall know that I am he which searches the reins and hearts, and I will give unto every one of you according to your works. Thyatira, Jezebel, ruling over Yah's people and leading them to go against his law. A woman leading Yah's people. A woman that calls herself a prophetess and is not. A religious woman. There are two women in the book of Revelation. Let's take a look at the first one, Revelation chapter 12. Revelation chapter 12. We're going to come back and study her in detail, but let's look at her now for what we're looking at in the trumpets here. Revelation chapter 12, beginning at verse 1. Revelation 12, verse 1. Watch the description. And there appeared a great wonder in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun and the moon under her feet, and upon her head a crown of 12 stars. Now compare this, please. Compare this to what happened in the fourth church. Compare this. Said with that fourth church, it's the fourth trumpet, the fourth trumpet said the moon and the sun and the stars were darkened. This woman, the Bible says, she's clothed with the sun and the moon and had stars and 12 crowns of stars, a crown of 12 stars. So there's two different women. One is dark, the other one is light. And the one that's light has 12 stars. 12. Come on now. You ain't got to go far to know what 12 represents. That's the nation of Israel. That's the nation of Israel. 12 is the number. 12 tribes, 12 apostles, 12 sons of Jacob, 12 loaves of bread in the holy place, 12. 12 baskets of remnants they picked up, 12, the nation of Israel. So this woman represents Israel. It represents the children of Israel that worship Yahweh, their God, and no other gods. But there's another woman, Revelation chapter 17. Remember what he said about Thyatira? I'm going to destroy her and her children and all those that commit adultery with her. Let me explain to you what adultery is in the Bible. You remember, and I'm not going to do it now. I want you to go look it up because it's there. Whenever Israel was unfaithful, especially you want to read it first in the book of Judges. Read Judges, okay? Right after Joshua came Judges. And when Judges, read that book, what you'll see a lot is this phrase right here. Y'all went a whoring after other gods. That's what you'll hear a lot. He'll say, Israel went a whoring after other gods. So to the Most High, the first commandment, thou shalt have no other gods before me. If you break that and you worship another God, like a white Jesus, like a Allah, like a Ellen White, like a Joseph Smith, if you have something like that, you're going to whoring from Yah. The heathen, let them go ahead and do that. That's their business. But for the Israelite, you're a whoring from Yah. Okay? Because you only have one God. And it ain't none of them. It ain't none of them. Vishnu, Buddha. You ain't made for that. You was brought for Yah, the creator. He said, thou shalt have no other God. And he said, when you do that, you are whoring. That's the word of whoring. Look it up. It's the word for adultery. It's adultery. So anybody that's with this next woman is committing adultery. Especially if you're an Israelite. If you're not an Israelite, you're a heathen. All the gods of the nations are idols. So that don't matter. And if you're a heathen and you want to come to the nation, you stop worshiping this one. You stop. Because you're grafted into the true one. Okay? But if you're an Israelite by blood, you got no business with this whore. You got no business with this whore. No business. Revelation chapter 17. Beginning at verse 1 and reading down to verse 5. Actually, verse 6. And there came one of the seven angels, which had the seven vials, and talked with me, saying unto me, come hither. I will show thee the judgment of the great whore that sitteth upon many waters. Here's another woman. This one's a whore. And sits upon many waters. Waters represent peoples and multitudes and nations and tongues, because the great whore controls the earth. The Bible tells us in the book of Daniel, it enveloped the whole earth, the great whore, with whom the kings of the earth have committed fornication. And the inhabitants of the earth have been made drunk from the wine of a fornication. See? Drunken with wine. Because they're thirsty, but they don't want the water of life from the Hebrew God. Messiah said, he that followeth me, out of his belly shall flow rivers of living water. He told the heathen woman, he told her, if you drink the water I give you, you never thirst again. Because the water I give you shall be a well of water springing up into everlasting life. That's the Father's Spirit. There's no thing like that. There's nothing like that. There's nothing like that available. There's nothing like that. So, this woman, though, give you bitter water. Cause you to die. And cause you to get drunk. So he carried me away in the spirit into the wilderness, and I saw a woman sit upon a scarlet-colored beast, full of names of blasphemy, having 7 heads and 10 horns. And the woman was arrayed in purple and scarlet color, decked with gold and precious stones and pearls, having a golden cup in her hand, full of abominations and filthiness of her fornication. Notice it said, gold, precious stones, and pearls. A God which your fathers knew not. Talking about the heathen, Daniel chapter 11, which ye shall honor with gold and precious stones and pearls. A God which their fathers knew not. That's the Catholic Church. That's the institution of Christianity. And upon her forehead was a name written, Mystery, Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots and abominations of the earth. Mystery. Whatever it's doing that you don't see is in secret. It's the Most High showing us in secret. It's in bed. In other words, all the countries of the planet Earth, all the leaders, the kings and the business leaders, they're all in bed with her. They commit fornication with her, which means they follow her doctrines. They follow her lead. They follow her commands. They incorporate into corporations that she controls. and they crushed the saints. And I saw the woman drunken with the blood of the saints and with the blood of the martyrs of Yahushua. And when I saw her, I wondered with great admiration. How many Israelites strung up from trees from people that say they're followers of the white Jesus? How many? How many Israelites been murdered by followers of the white Jesus? How many Israelites have been influenced by the white Jesus to commit murder? How many Israelites are all caught up in this system of the white Jesus and are unhappy, unfulfilled, and empty? How many? It's killing us. Our salvation is not in guns. It's not in bombs. You don't have to worry about that. Our salvation is in perfect righteousness. The perfect righteousness of Father Yah given to us from the Savior Messiah, who sits at his right hand as our high priest. That's our deliverance. That's clearing our head and our spirit. So this woman is the same woman of the fourth trumpet, of the fourth church, of the pale horse. It's the same one. So you have two movements in the Bible. You have one where there's holiness and righteousness from Israel. You have the other where there's darkness and deception. This woman's in secret. She's a mystery. She's in the wilderness. He said, I went into the wilderness to see her. So in other words, everything Rome is doing, everything Christianity is up to is in secret. And it's being exposed because the Bible said, Messiah said, at the end, everything's going to be exposed. Everything's going to be exposed. So it's being exposed. Why is it being exposed from the secret? Because this let us see plainly what it's about, and we can make an intelligent decision. Most people do not make the intelligent decision. Most people decide to be willfully ignorant and ignore what they see. If you're in a church and you have hundreds, literally even thousands of little boys that have been raped and molested by priests, are you telling me that's the true church? Sir, are you telling me that? And you're just going to ignore that and still stay with that? Or you're in a religion that goes into other people's countries and kills men, women, and children that don't convert to it, Islam, and says it's a religion of peace. You telling me that's the true church? And bows down to a stone in the Middle East. Are you telling me that's the true church? In Saudi Arabia? I mean, wait. In the Bible, does it mention Saudi Arabia as a holy place? I mean, did it ever? So it's being exposed to show you what it's really about. Everything is being exposed. Everything. And people have to make intelligent decisions. This is the power that we have as human beings, that the only power that can help us in this whole plan of salvation, our decision-making ability. The ability we have to choose. Messiah and our Father, more importantly, are not rapists. They're not going to force you to choose righteousness. They want to present righteousness before you. They want to present unrighteousness before you and let you choose. What do you want? Remember what Elijah said on Mount Carmel. Choose you this day whom ye will serve. The purpose of raising up the 144,000 is to present a clear picture of the message of perfect righteousness. A clear picture of that message so it could be exposed to everybody. And people have to make an intelligent decision for themselves. You see, I want to tell you something. The people that are alive on the earth today are the most important of all generations. For the people that are alive on the earth today are of the generations that's going to actually see with their own eyes, whichever side they're on, the return of Messiah. The generation that we're seeing here, the leadership of the religious world that we are now in, is going to die the death of the lake of fire. They're not even going to come up in the second resurrection. I know you don't see it. When you read Revelation chapter 19, you'll see. When we get there, you'll see. They don't come up in the second resurrection. This is it for them. Because right now, with the people that are alive on the planet, you have a group of people that are going to get into the kingdom and have never died. In the Bible, there's only who? There's Enoch, there's Elijah, that has never tasted death. Only two men in the entire Bible. And so you're going to have groups of people that are alive right now that are going to never taste of death. That's special. That's daggone special, y'all. And so because of that, this game is getting heated, boy. This is for real. This is for real. And Asatan very well knows that this generation that he's at right now, this is the last one. See, the second resurrection, they're done. They're done. They already know. They're going to try to take the city then too, but they're going to be destroyed. He's done then. But right now, this is the generation he's trying to develop to take over the earth and create his kingdom. That's what he's trying to do right here. This is Asatan creating Asatan's kingdom, because he very well knows that Messiah's intent is to create a kingdom that Father has given to him. He knows that. So he's getting prepared. This generation is the most important one that has ever existed in the history of the planet Earth because of these things. And so everything's going to be exposed, everything. And he expects, the Father is expecting people to make an intelligent decision. But the thing is, the decision is being clouded. Just like the seeds, the plant that went forth to sow, and it says some of the seeds, the birds came and snatched it up before it even got into the ground. Some of the seeds, the Bible said, were seeded in the ground, but the cares of this life, money and power and people's influence, choked it. Some of the seeds sprung up right away, but then when the sun got too hot, faded away because they were shallow from the start. Some fell on good ground and brought forth fruit. And that's what's going on, y'all. That's what's going on. Everybody's brought to make a decision, but there's issues. There are agendas. There's issues. And so what would appear to be a chip shot decision is not. It's not. And for 2/3 of the Israelites by blood and 5/6 of the heathen, wrong answer. That's what's coming. That's what's here. It's not even coming. It's here. So, and we're headed rapidly down the road of rapid development on both sides. The awakening is going to continue to develop, and the kingdom of Asatan that he is now developing is going to continue to develop. Both sides. Okay, it's coming. It's here. It's already here. Okay. In the next 7 years, you're going to see a lot of stuff, y'all. You're going to see a lot of stuff. Okay. So now let's look at Revelation chapter 9. So let me give you some history. Now, we talked a little bit about history last night, and I'm going to review that history now. So Constantine came along in the 4th century. Okay, 337 or something like that, and converted and became a Jesus freak, and decided he was going to mix, his paganism with the followers of the way, and this later became Christianity over the next few centuries. Actually, 2 centuries. It was developed in the 4th century, and it got to the point where it dominated Europe. Now, I just want to again. People get all emotional when I bring this stuff up because it's too close to their heart. It's real close to your heart. And I understand that, but try to step back and look at it biblically for a moment so you understand the truth. Truth hurts. It just does. Truth, for example, that my people killed Messiah. We turned him over to the Gentiles and let them kill him, for he died for us. And because of that, we were scattered into captivity into 4 corners of the earth, and we were allowed to be lynched and torn in pieces and our women raped because we did that. Over 2,000 years, we were allowed to be treated like that. Of course, now it's come to an end because the time of the Gentiles has been fulfilled. But that's what happened to us. The Hamitic people, who people in the world call African, that's not their original name. They're children of Ham. They come from Cush and Mizraim and Put. These people ruled the world for 2,000 years. They had their shot at it. They took their turn at bat, as the Jeffersons would say. And for 2,000 years, they ruled the planet. They created writing. They created mathematics. They created surgery. They were doing eye surgery while Europeans were still in hills with clubs in their hand. They had advanced civilizations before even Europeans knew what civilization was. The Hamitic people ruled the planet for 2 millennia. The last Hamitic king was Nebuchadnezzar, because they thought they was gods, and they thought the sun was God. And it was taken from them and given to the third son of Noah, Japhet, which is where we find ourselves now. Japhet has ruled the world for 2,000 years. Asatan well knows this, and he's with Japhet to develop his kingdom for his purpose. So within that kingdom, first you had Constantine. Then in the 6th century, the established Catholic Church was made. In the 6th century, they try to tell you they go back to Peter. They're lying. There's no Catholic Church in the Bible. But in 508 AD, look it up, 508 AD. This is history. Look it up, 508 AD. Justinian, the French king, declared that the Bishop of Rome was the corrector of all heretics, from a king given authority to a religious power. So now the Catholic Church became the Holy Roman Empire. It was in bed with the kings of the earth, just like we just read. So that the kings of Europe, all the kings of Europe, gave penance to the Catholic Church in Rome. Okay? And any society that was against Rome was going to have problems. (508). There were 3 of the European kingdoms, 3 kings that said, we don't want no part of this Catholic religion. And all the other 7 worked together to destroy them, which is why you had in Daniel 7, 3 horns plucked up by the roots, and the little horn overcame them. So there were 3, I think it was Ostrogoths, Visigoths, and Heruli, that said, no, we don't want any part of this. We have our own pagan religion. But no, they all had to convert. That's what you call the beginning of crusades. It would spread throughout the earth. So then, that's the 6th century. In the 7th century, 100 years later, a woman that was known to be influenced by Catholics named Khadijah, a very successful businesswoman in the Middle East, what we call the Middle East, had a servant that worked for her, a young man named Muhammad. This young man could not read or write, but she liked him. And she married him, though she was 20 years older than him. Then he said he went into a mountain and he saw Allah. Allah is not a name. Allah is actually a Hebrew, come from a Semitic term. It just means it's the title of God. Anything can be Allah. Anything you can worship can be Allah. Because it's not a name, it's a title. Like God is a title. Like Most High is a title. It's not his name, it's a title. His name is Yah, short for Yahweh. That's his name, which he introduced to Israel. Even Abraham and Isaac and Jacob knew him by Al Shaddai, which means the Most High Almighty. But when Moses came with Jacob's children, the rest of Jacob, he said, my name, though, is Yahweh. Your fathers didn't know me by that name, but that's my name. Hello, Moses. My name is Yahweh. I am the God of your father. Imagine that. So that's his name. So Muhammad was introduced to something he called Allah, and a religion that he called Allah. And someone, people claim it was his scribes or whoever. We don't have any proof of who it is. Somebody wrote the Quran based on what Muhammad said he saw. There was no witnesses to this, but Khadijah bore witness, his older wife and sponsor. And in the 7th century, you had Islam. Islam means submission to the will of God. And they say they serve one God, and they say his name is Allah, which is generic. So now you have two man-made religions which have generic names. Because you know what? Catholic, the word Catholic means universal. That's what Catholic means. It means universal. So they say they're the universal church, which means they encompass all churches. And Islam says Islam means submission to the will of God. No matter what religion you are, as long as you're submissive to God, even Malcolm X fell for that. And they said, you are a Muslim because it's universal. You see the pattern here. You have Yah saying, I have chosen one people and I've only shown myself to them. And these other two religions pop up saying, no, we're both universal for all mankind. When Yah says all the gods of the nations are idols, Yahweh made the heavens. So there's only one true God. He's only showing himself to one people. But these other ones say, no, he's showing himself to all. We're universal. Then these two are now the dominant religions over that 200-year period between this 100-year period between the 6th century and the 7th century. And they started both gaining power and influence. And they were trying to force their religion on all nations. Well, there was an important nation, Khazaria, that's now Russia. Khazaria was an important nation because people would come from the east to bring goods and exports from the east through Khazaria to get to Europe, to get to places like England, or to get to Germany, or then it was called Alemannia, or to get to Italy. They had to go through Khazaria, and they would pay fees to come through. So it was an important place strategically for money. So that both the Christian and the Muslim wanted that place. So they were trying to get the king and the royalty of Khazaria to convert to their respective religions. Khazaria was in a bit of a dilemma. So they said, no, this is what we're going to do. We're going to create another religion, and we're going to use Moses just like Muhammad did, and just like the Catholic Church did, except we're going to call ours Judaism. And we're going to keep our Kabbalah, our book of magic, and we're going to have Judaism. And that was the 8th century. Now, that did not stop the Muslims from pushing in all directions to spread their religion. And in 1299 AD, 1299, mark it officially AD, 1299, the Ottoman Empire was established. The Ottoman Empire took over the land that we call Turkey. That land originally was controlled by Rome. Under Constantine, that land had a capital that was called Constantinople. Makes sense, right? After Constantine, right? Europeans like to do that. They name their lands after themselves. So they said, Constantine came in there and said, we take over this land, and it's called, the capital is Constantinople, okay? But when Islam took it over, they changed the name of the capital to Istanbul, which is the name of it to this day, Istanbul. Which is why when a pope came one year, Pope Ratzinger, what was his name? Pope Benedict, whose name was Ratzinger. He said he was going to visit the country, and he purposely said, I'm going to visit Constantinople. And the Muslims in Turkey was mad. They said, you better not come here, man. There's going to be a problem. It ain't Constantinople anymore. By him saying that, what he's saying is we control it. You don't control it. We control it. And they knew that. And by and large, the Muslims met. It didn't stop him from coming, though, because they do control it. It's still called Istanbul. And that's what Rome has done. They let you keep your name, but they control all your countries. And they know it. They're arrogant about it. They know it. Okay. So now, 1299, you had a 150-year period of the Ottoman Empire, which fell 150 years later in 1453. And that's where we have the fifth trumpet of Revelation chapter 9. Let's take a look. Revelation chapter 9, beginning at verse 1. And the fifth angel sounded, and I saw a star fall from heaven unto the earth, and to him was given the key of the bottomless pit. So let's stop right here. A star falling from heaven is always, brethren, Asatan. It's always him. Whenever you see a star fall from heaven, an angel fall from heaven, something get kicked out of heaven, it's Asatan. All that represents him. Messiah said, I saw Asatan as lightning fall from heaven. So whenever it is a fall from heaven, it's Asatan. And here it is again. So we saw him in the earlier trumpets as wormwood. Because why? Because it's Asatan that's always behind all of these movements that go against Yah and his people. It's always Asatan. It's always him. Any movement, the Ku Klux Klan is from Asatan. Alt-right is from Asatan. The whole conservative liberal movement is from Asatan. Whenever you see stuff that's built to confuse Yah's chosen, that's built to cause them to forget who they are, to leave his commandments, it's always Asatan. Because he's our enemy. Because he's the enemy of our Father. You understand? And he's always looking to deceive and to confuse. 100% of the time. No exceptions. So here he is again. He's fallen from heaven, and this time he's got a key to a bottomless pit. Now, in the Bible, whenever you see the word pit, it's a hole in the ground. And oftentimes the hole in the ground is used as a grave. Oftentimes, I'm going to say something that's, I'm going to say it as nice as I can. Oftentimes the hole in the ground is used as a toilet and a grave. Okay? Oftentimes it's used as a toilet or a grave. Sometimes it's used as a hiding place. Sometimes a man that's running in a mountain that Saul said David must be in some pit somewhere, hiding. Or when the brothers of Joseph were going to sell him into slavery, they put him in a pit. Remember? They put him in a pit, a hole in the ground. Right? And then when the Ishmaelites came, they took him out the pit and sold him. So pit is a hole in the ground. It's used usually as a grave. Usually it's a grave. But it can be somebody's that's hiding, somebody that's being held captive, or a toilet. But it's never a good thing. It's never a place you want to be. So this bottomless pit is all three of that. It's either people hiding, people in a dark place, people in chained, people in a toilet, or people dead. Asatan for 1,000 years will be in a bottomless pit, a grave, because he must suffer the second death. Okay, so he's going to be in a pit. You want to know where he is during the 1,000-year reign of Messiah? In a pit, being held in a grave. You're not going to hear from him. Nothing. Okay, now, so here, he's given a key to a pit. In other words, he can let people out of the pit. For what purpose? Revelation chapter 9, verse 2. And he opened the bottomless pit, and there arose smoke out of the pit as the smoke of a great furnace. And the sun and the air were darkened by reason of the smoke of the pit. So what came out of the pit was smoke, almost like a volcano. And it caused darkness. It covered the sky with black. You ever see a fire or something like a forest fire, like we've been seeing a lot lately, right? The forest fires in the West, they're so black. I remember a guy that I work with. He said that the smoke was coming from California, and he was in Colorado, and the sky was dark because of the smoke. And he said it was even the burning was coming to Colorado, and he was in a mountain high area, and it was still dark because of the smoke. That's what happened here. So the smoke comes out of the pit and makes the earth dark. Darkness is always spiritual darkness. Always. Spiritual darkness. Okay? And there came out of the smoke locusts upon the earth, and unto them was given power as scorpions of the earth have power. So what is the scorpion's power? To sting. And with his sting, it poisons you. Correct? So when a scorpion stings you, it can kill you, right? Because it's stinging you, it hurts, and then it's poisonous. Okay, so it says, out of this bottomless pit basically came forth poisonous scorpions that darkened, whose smoke came with them and darkened the earth. Some of y'all ain't gonna like what's coming in terms of this prophecy. By the way, it's already taken place already. This started back in the 7th century. Okay. Verse 4. And it was commanded them that they should not hurt the grass of the earth, neither any green thing, neither any tree, but only those men which have not the seal of Yah on their foreheads. So this was for a specific attack on a specific people. It was not supposed to hurt Yah's people, but only the people that were against Yah already was supposed to hurt them. Who was the Ottoman Empire fighting against? Historically speaking, who was the Ottoman Empire when it became the Ottoman Empire? Who was it fighting against? I'll let you answer that question for now. And to them it was given that they should be tormented 5 months. Now, let's stop right here. 5 months. A month in the Bible is 30 days. 5 months is 150 days. Okay? 150 days. 5 months. Okay. In prophetic time, though, how much is 5 months? Prophetically speaking, a day is equal to a year. Numbers 14:34, Ezekiel 4:6. Prophetically speaking, a number is a day is a year. 40 days the spies went into the land. 40 years they were in the wilderness. A day is equal to a year. So 150 days is 150 years. Guess how long the Ottoman Empire lasted? 150 years. Isn't that coincidental? So who are they fighting against? They were pushing against Rome. That's why they took over Turkey. Rome originally had it. They took it over. And they were pushing against Europe because they were trying to force their way in. And thereby, after forcing their way in, they would force conversions. It was interesting. You had Christianity that went into all nations and forced conversion. And you had Islam that went into all nations and forced conversions. Which is why if you go into Africa today, you got half of them that was converted by the Catholic Church or Christianity. And you got half of them that was converted by Muslims. So you had the Atlantic slave trade and you had the sub-Saharan slave trade. There were two slave trades. One for the Muslims taking Israelites and the other one for the Christians taking Israelites. That's the truth, y'all. So even to this day, have you heard about what's going on in Sudan right now? In Eritrea? In Ethiopia? Pushes from Muslims, political fighting. Why is that? Do you know what happened with Rwanda in the 1990s? The slaughter between the two tribes? Do you know what, as a result of that, the number one religion in Rwanda right now is Roman Catholicism, like the number one religion in Rwanda? Do you think that was the agenda all along? Do you heard of Boko Haram that comes to Nigeria and kidnaps men, women, and children, trying to convert them to Islam? And do you think they just came up with that and them guns by themselves? It's already here, brethren. It's being consolidated. That's what's going on. There's a consolidation going on. A consolidation. Okay? Corporate power combined with religious power to consolidate the earth under that power controlled by Asatan. That's what's going on right now. Okay, and it's prophetic. So here, this is the Muslims pushing against Catholicism, competing, as it were, with Catholicism, competing with them. And that's also prophetically speaking in Daniel chapter 11. Daniel chapter 11 says about, and it's talking about Islam. The king of the south is Islam. Look what it says here. Daniel chapter 11. Daniel chapter 11. I'm going to begin at verse 40. Daniel chapter 11, verse 40. Watch what it says here. And at the time of the end shall the king of the south push at him, and the king of the north shall come against him like a whirlwind, with chariots and with horsemen and with many ships. And he shall enter into the countries and shall overflow and pass over. The king of the north is Catholicism. The king of the south is Islam. I mean, they started off as something else, but through the course of centuries, they developed into what we have, the two religious powers. So the king of the south pushed at the king of the north. That was the Ottoman Empire. The king of the north came at him like a whirlwind. Is still doing it. Whenever you see the United States attacking Saddam Hussein or attacking, what's that boy's name that they claimed they killed, the boogeyman they raided up? What's his name? Osama bin Laden. That's Rome saying, go spank them. Because they went against us in the Ottoman Empire. The king of the north shall come against him like a whirlwind with chariots and horses. Do you know during the 1990s, over 1 million Iraqi citizens of men and women and children were killed by U.S. military? What did Iraqi citizens have to do with their leader and their army? And they found out Iraq had nothing to do with 9/11, and yet they came in there and spanked them anyway. Oh no, they were weapons. They said they were weapons of mass destruction. They never found any because it was never there. They're coming there to spank them. That's right, in the name of oil. But they came for Rome on Rome's behest. Rome has an agenda whereby the Jerusalem of the Edomites is going to be considered the original, and them people are going to be considered the true Israelites. So you don't see Israel getting touched. But all the nations around them that's not recognizing Israel, Jordan has recognized Israel. Jordan recognizes Israel as a nation. Jordan used to be Edom and Moab and Ammon. They're not getting touched because they recognize Israel. All the nations that don't recognize Israel are getting smacked. All the Muslim nations. Okay? Because of the Ottoman Empire. Coming against them like a whirlwind. And because of this here. Because they were biting them for 150 years. They don't forget that. It's amazing. They for 400 years in this country and for more time in other countries like Brazil, the Hebrew has been oppressed and maligned. And today, the first thing come out of the mouth of the oppressor's children is, "You guys are not going to get violent, are you?" Isn't that crazy? You guys are not going to get violent. They done bombed us. They done lynched us. They done had us in chains. And the first thing they ask, "Y'all not going to get violent, right?" And after 150 years of these people getting spanked by the Muslims, for hundreds of years later, they still coming at them. They still coming at them, taking their oil, controlling their countries, bombing their men, women, and children with drones. Come on, y'all. They still coming at them. Even in Bosnia. Bosnia was about spanking Muslims. That's all it was about. Bosnia and Serbia, that was about spanking Muslims. That's all that was about. And they had Clinton do the work. There you go. You're going to see a lot more of that. And the Muslims are going to submit. Some of them, or most of them. Some of them ain't going to. Most of them are. They're going to submit. Okay? Because they're going to be brought under subjection. All right, we're going to stop here. I'm going to take a break. We'll come back to the fifth angel and talk more about that. But it's a lot of information, isn't it? There's a lot of information, brethren. A lot of information, man. A lot of information. Yeah. A lot of information. So let us continue to seek our Father in heaven, spirit of perfect righteousness, that we might bring glory to him, and heed the warnings he's showing us, so that we are not confused by anything that happens on this planet, because he's showing us all already. I will be back. I'm going to, is now 12:36 on the East Coast of the United States in the Washington, D.C. area. I'm going to be back at about 10 after 1:15, say 1:15. I'm going to be back, and by the grace of the Most High, we're going to continue to study the fifth trumpet, and we may even be able to go into the sixth for a minute. But yeah, that we're going to continue to do that. And by the grace of the Most High, this is some heavy stuff. I know it is. It's not complicated, but there is a lot of information, and it is heavy. But it's all for the purpose of the awakened people to understand what's happening, so that we don't be confused by what's going on. Nothing should confuse us when we follow His word. Follow this King James Bible. It's the one that's the word of the Most High. It will show you, it will change your life, and you will never be deceived by what's happening. It will show you everything. It will show you everything that's coming. There are things we don't know. And as we read about, remember we read in 29th chapter of Deuteronomy, there's things that are secret that we're not supposed to know yet. You know, people are looking at those things. They're trying to get to all these other books to find out these things that are secret. But the Most High has revealed things to us from Genesis to Revelation. That's for us. That's for us. That's for us. Yeah, that's the thing, Bless. Just to bring that up. King James did not write the Bible. It's a common thread in Europe at that time to have the king's authorization to do something. And he authorized the King James Bible to be printed. He had nothing to do with its translation or its writing or its approval, except to just say, I authorize it. That's why it's called the authorized version. It doesn't matter who he was or what he did. It's irrelevant. What's relevant is the translation. That's what's relevant. And William Tyndale translated 80% of it before they killed him. You know, and then they took his whatever he did, and they completed the other 20% of it. So yeah, that's how that worked. And the battle was with the Roman Catholic Church, which is why King James of England authorized it, because the battle was with the Catholic Church. The Catholic Church did not want English speaking people to have the Bible in their own language. Did not want that. And so that's what that was the battle. See, so King James, don't get caught up in who he was or what. It doesn't matter who he was, white or black, gay or straight. That doesn't matter. What matters is he was the king, and he said, go do this. And they did it. Okay. Anyway, so yes, anytime. Yeah, because again, that's one of the confusions. People are pointing. I heard Jehovah's Witnesses, King James was gay. That's why we had to write our new translation. Oh man, please, no, it doesn't matter who he was. He had nothing to do with the translation of the book. It was William Tyndale. Look up William Tyndale. 80% of the King James Bible is a direct copy from William Tyndale's Bible. William Tyndale was considered the greatest linguist of his time, one of the greatest of all time. He could speak several languages with fluently, and he was hunted. He was a Catholic priest that left the church because he was hunted because he wanted to bring the English-speaking people a Bible. And so he did 80% of what we consider King James. Somebody found out where he was in Europe, and they came and arrested him. They tortured him. They put him in a dungeon and tortured him in the Catholic Church. And then they put him in a public square, and they threw eggs at him after they tortured him. And then they tied him to a stake, and they didn't even want him to speak when he was going to die, because they were afraid that somebody would get converted. Because William Tyndale was serious. He was a European, but he was trying to follow the Most High as best he could, and he knew the Bible, obviously. And so Tyndale, yeah, Tyndale, Tyndale. And so Tyndale was strangled at the stake before he could speak. He was strangled, and then they burned him. Then they took his ashes and burned them again. That's how, there's no other writer that translated the Bible ever went through that. Not like that. And so they took and found as many of the translations of English that they could find that he did and burned them. They only have like 4 left in the world right now. They're in museums. One of them is in the Washington, D.C. museum. They have a Tyndale museum, but there's very few copies left. But they took his manuscripts and they just added to it. He had already done the New Testament. He had already done all the books of Moses. He had done most of the prophets. And so they took what he did, and they just, the other 20% of books that they considered canon, which is the prophets, what we call the minor prophets, they consider that canon. So they took those books, and that was the 20% that was left. They had Hebrew and Greek scholars and Aramaic scholars finish it. But this Bible is Tyndale's. Yeah, it's what Tyndale did. So it was a translation from Tyndale. Right. So now if you're looking at the King James Bible, if you want a proof, you want to say, well, is this authentic? Because I hear some brothers say, well, the Bible is a white man's book for a white man's religion. Well, I can understand out of their ignorance why they would say that, because white Jesus was being pushed on us, as well as white Christianity with white supremacy. That's what it was. But when you actually read the book, like I have multiple times, you will see that the sons of Japhet, from where white comes from, are cursed in this book. And somebody said, well, if it's a white man's Bible, why wouldn't he bless the white man? Why wouldn't he elevate him in this book if he was just writing it for the white man, right? But he was not doing that. He was translating it from Hebrew and Greek. So, and his translation is faithful because it shows the role of Rome is shown in this book. We were talking about it. It's the great whore. If he was writing it for Catholic, it wouldn't make Catholicism the great whore. And then when you're reading it from Genesis to Revelation, there's a harmony that no man could make. Of all, you see how thick this book is? No man could make this book be in complete harmony over several centuries. Because Moses wrote stuff 4,000 years ago that's in harmony with what John wrote, that John wrote that stuff like 3,000 years after Moses. And they're in harmony. William Tyndale couldn't do that. Nobody could. He just translated it. And his translation is faithful based on the evidence that is showing us. It's showing us that the sons of Japhet will rule the earth at the end and they'll be destroyed. That Gog and Magog are the ones that's following Asatan. It shows us that the Hamitic people ruled the earth for 2,000 years. And they're finding this out in archaeology. They found out that Egyptians were doing eye operations 4,000 years ago. So it's faithful translation. Okay? And like I said, read it for yourself. Read the book. Don't just read parts of it. Don't read about it. Read it. Read the book. You understand? Read the whole thing from Genesis to Revelation. Okay? That's what you need to do for yourself. Otherwise, you'll be confused by people that don't know who King James was, or people that, blame King James, or people that say, white Jesus is, raise your hand and accept him and you'll be saved. And people that, that use Paul's writings or misuse them, as it were, to justify a fake religion of Christianity. You have to read the book for yourself. You don't have to read a lot of books, just this one. It'll take you a year to read. It'll take you a year. But the Most High, when you pray, his spirit will guide you through this word. Okay? His spirit will guide you through this word. So, yeah, there's that. As my grandson would always say, there's that. So, yeah, be faithful to the Most High Yah. Study his word for yourself. Ask his spirit to guide you. Ask for his righteousness, and it will guide you in his word, and it will change your life, and you will never have to be deceived, ever. He will guide his people. He will never let you be deceived. Okay? We'll be back at 1:15 by the grace of the Most High. Until then, and if I don't see you, please stay faithful to the Most High, the only true God. May he bless your steps with righteousness and truth and guide you with his light. Shalom.